Download and install Debian. We're going to go to debian.org/distrib/netinst, and then we're going to click on AMD64, and it's about a 300 meg file to download it. Okay, so once we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is go to our VMware installation, which should be round about here, and we're going to choose to create a new virtual machine. Now, if you're still downloading the file, don't worry, right, because it'll take a wee minute to set this up, what we're actually doing here. So let's create a new virtual machine, and we'll go for a custom installation, and then I don't see any harm with leaving this on workstation 16.2, and then I'm just going to choose use ISO image, and I'm just going to browse to our oh look, it found it. That was clever, wasn't it? They've obviously done some clever programming, because it seemed to manage to find it straight away. Straight into my VMware folder. Okay, so that's handy. Didn't expect that. Okay, so if I hit next, again it's detected the type of, normally you have to set this to something, but it seems to have detected that it's Debian 11. So if it doesn't, we need to change that to Debian 11. And I'm just going to change this a little bit, because this class is WCS, so I know this, and I'm going to take away the 64-bit. I don't think we really care about that, and 11.x, okay, something like that, just so that we know exactly what this machine is. Number of processors, just stick it on 2 with 2 cores. I'll be fine. This doesn't have to be a particularly good machine. I'm probably going to put 2 gig of RAM would be fine, but I'm going to put it on 4096 just so the installation goes a bit faster. I can turn it down later. NAT will be fine. Leave that as default as well. And we'll create a new virtual disk, and we'll just leave it as default. Now, the only thing I would advise is store the disk as a single file, and then later on it'll be easier to delete it, rather than if it splits into multiple files, then you have to go and delete multiple files later on. So let's just store it as a single file. That's a fine name for the disk, and I would say that's fine. What I'm going to do though is I'm just going to take away the printer, because we don't really need a printer. Normally I take away the sound card, but I'm not going to take away the sound card for reasons that I'll reveal later on. So let's just close that and hit finish there. Now, VMware was created successfully. You still need to install the operating system in VMware Tools. Okay, well, we'll do that later. Let's not show. It's just because there's a new installation of VMware it's telling me this. So close, and you should hear a beep noise. Always does that. I don't know why. I don't know why. Always does that. So for some reason it wants to capture my microphone and camera. I'm not going to let it do that. So is it using the internal speaker? I've no idea why it does that, but it only does it on the very first time that you do it. I've never looked into it, and I don't know why, but it always does that, and I don't know why. So let's just get rid of this hint as well. The following devices can be connected. Yeah, but I don't want them to be, okay? So now we should be presented with something that looks like this sort of dark screen here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go for the normal graphical install. All right. Let's just see what happens. Now, I'm just going to run through this quite quickly. Most things are just left as default. So we're going to go with English, for the United Kingdom, British English, just so the keyboard works properly, because unless you have an American keyboard, of course. And then we'll see what these additional components load up. Detecting the network, so hopefully it'll just detect DHCP off IPv6. Network configuration has succeeded. So, right, hostname. Now, what this is going to be is this is going to be the name that comes before the prompt. Alright, so look, my computer over here, if I do exit clear, okay, it's called MDB01, okay, which stands for Michael Debian 01, because this is my main computer. Alright, I've got other ones. I've got MTV 01, Michael's TV 01, and I've got MTV 02 as well. So what I'm going to call this is probably, and this doesn't exactly matter. You don't you don't have to you don't have to. This is not particularly important what you call it. So I'm just going to call this MWCS 01. Alright, so, and then let's just continue there. Domain name, just leave that blank. That's if you've got a domain name registered that you're going to link to this server. And then root password. Right, so I'm probably just going to make this a very easy root password to make my life easier. So you can probably guess what it's going to be. No double dollars or anything like that. It's not like Windows Server where you have to do $, Edinburgh College $, or anything like that. So let's just continue there. Full name, username Michael, password for the new user. Now I would make the password for the new user something that you'll remember. Alright, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. Yeah. Just make it 1 2 3. Right, okay, so guided, use entire disk. Now normally, right, I would go in and like manually faff about with the disk partition. I mean, I can do that. I can show you how you would do that, right? So I'll tell you what I've done on my computer, my MDB01, right? Go into manual partitioning. We've got this 21.5 gig virtual disk, okay, or at least the VM thinks we do. Now we could go in to this, right, and we can, oh wait, hold on, let's go back. We can create a partition. So let's go in here, and you've selected an entire device to partition. Do you want to partition the device? Yeah. So at the moment we have a primary partition of the full disk. So what we can actually do is we can go in here, right, continue, by selecting the partition, and we can create a new partition in there, and we can say, okay, we want this to be, let's say, 1 gig, right? Continue, and we want this to be at the beginning, and we want this to be the swap area, okay, and just hit done there. And then what we could do is we could install the operating system in the rest of the disk. Okay, now I'm not going to go and do this, but I just want to show you this. We're not actually doing this in this class, but I just wanted to show you what you can do at this point, right? So let's say we have multiple disks in our computer, and they would appear here. Okay, let's go into this one and create a new partition, right? And let's say we want to make this, let's make it 4 gig. Okay, I'll just delete that. 4 gig. Okay, and continue. Now, what we can do here, okay, is let's leave it on logical, right? beginning, we can actually say what we want this partition to be used for by Debian. So see, we go into this mount point, we could actually put the home directory, the home directories of this machine on a separate hard drive, a separate disk. And this is the setup that I've got. So I've got a separate disk that has all my data on it, and another disk that runs the operating system. Now the reason this is interesting is because var is where all the logs write to. So I actually have my var partition writing onto a SATA drive because I think it wears down the SSD. And we can do other things, like we can move user local universal system resources to another disk. Okay, right, I'm not going to do that with this because it's a little bit beyond the scope of this course, but I just wanted to show you that if you wanted, you could have a computer with multiple hard drives in it, and you could have a hard drive that let's say it's 1 terabyte, and that could be for your home, your user files, and then you could have another hard drive that's say only 200 gig, and that could have the main operating system binaries on it, or something like that. Okay, so let's go back and just cancel all of this, right? And we'll just do it the easy way. So we're going to go back into partition disks. So these are all the steps to setting up the operating system. Let's go to partition disks, and let's just do guided partitioning. Continue. And let's just go guided use entire disk. Continue. And all files in one partition. Look, it's even offering you, it'll say, look, we can do different partitions for different things. Now this could be great because if you corrupted your operating system, you could delete all the other partitions apart from the home partition, and then you could reinstall and just have your home partition on a different disk. So I'm just going to go all files in one partition, and look, it's pretty much set it up the way I said I was going to set it up. I said 1 gig of swap and 20 gig for the rest, and that's pretty much what it's done. Now I could have done that manually, but it's done that for me anyway. So let's just finish partitioning and write the changes to the disk. Yes, I do want to write them to the disk. It'll format them, and then it'll go on to the base system. Now this step takes a little bit longer. So well, let's just see how long it takes. Might get right to the end quite quickly because I've given it 4 gig. So let's see, installing the base system. You can hear the old fan. Configuring udev. And then this next bit is sort of slightly more important, where you actually choose select and install software is the next bit. Unpacking the kernel. Configuring Linux image 5.10. Kernel Sanders, yeah. 5.10 we're on now, kernel 5.10. Remember it was on like 3. Okay, so this next bit, select and install software. Right, so it's saying that there's an option of scanning. Now, this bit here is important if you were doing this on a laptop. The reason being, if you were doing it on a laptop and you didn't have internet, the reason being sometimes the Wi-Fi drivers or something don't work and you have to go and get them off a CD, a USB, and put them in. I've had to do this before. So, you wish to scan more media, insert no I don't. Right, and then it's just going to get me to configure the package manager. I'm just going to leave that on debian.org. Leave the proxy blank. And then it's going to probably ask me what desktop environment I want to set up. Now we want to set this up with no desktop environment. We just want a command line operating system only. Yeah, exactly. So we can just log into it with SSH and configure it. So select and install software now. It should give us a little choice of what it is that we want to install. So I guess it's got to retrieve 12 files. What's inside the standard system utilities? Inside the standard system utilities is stuff like the ls command and like cd and stuff like that. Like the GNU core utils, grep and things, I guess, awk, just stuff that you'll need to run the system. But very, very, very scaled down. Like you won't get like a LibreOffice, or as you're saying in the chat there, a calculator. Running popcorn, right? So it's asking you if you want to be in the popularity contest. It's totally up to you. I'm going to say no this time. Now this thing, taskcell, the hostname, you can use whatever hostname you want. I'm using MWCS01. Okay. So what we're going to do at this point is not install GNOME. For a couple of reasons. One, we don't need it, and two, it's quite large and it's going to take up more space and it'll make the installation take much longer. So we don't want a desktop environment. All we want is the bottom two, SSH and standard system utilities. And then we're going to hit continue and it's going to select and install the system. Now, shouldn't really take too long because it's a very cut down system. The only thing that we're adding is the SSH server and the standard system utilities. So I don't think it's going to take long at all. There it is unpacking N curses. I saw Whiptail there. CA certificate, Python 3.9, Open SSH server, the mandb. This is usually the last bit. Certainly thinking about it, configuring the mandb. Some Python stuff. Now, this is quite an important step. It's going to ask you if you want to put the bootloader, where you want to put the bootloader. So there should only be one option, but you need to say yes to this, otherwise it won't boot. So just do that and then choose the primary drive. This would be if you had multiple disks. It would ask you which one you wanted to boot from. So let's just do, well, we only have one disk, so let's do that. Oh look, it's installing OpenVMTools. Somehow it's figured out that it's being installed in a virtual machine and it's installing the VM tools for us automatically. Even though I think most of the VM tools are to do with sorting out the graphics. So I don't know why we would need that on a command line only system. Right, installation's complete. Let's hit continue. And we're now going to reboot into the new system. No beep that time, you might have noticed. So right, so here we are at the main screen and it's asking me to log in. So I'm just going to log in. You have to log in with your username that you made. So I'll just log in with Michael, put in the password. Would help if I typed the password correctly. There we go. Now that we're in, we can get started. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pause the recording just now and we'll come back when everyone's managed to get up to this stage. So let's give me a second, I'll just pause this. Okay, so now that we've got the server installed, we want to be able to log into it from our terminal emulator so that we can copy and paste in. So the first thing to do is to check the local IP address, and I've got here, it's quite difficult to see, but I've got 172.16.24.129. So I'm going to get my GNOME terminal here. On Windows you would use PuTTY to do this. I'm just going to go SSH to Michael at 172.16.24.129. Then it's going to ask me to put the password in. And now I'm logged into this machine from my local machine. So I can have a better font and I can copy and paste commands in quite easily. So let's get rid of this. Let's just minimize this and say that we're going to work on the computer using this server here, using this terminal emulator here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this computer into a web server. Okay, now I'm trying to think whether or not I should change the IP addressing. I probably should, to be honest. So let me just exit back out of here and let's put it onto the actual LAN. Okay, so at the moment we've got the IP address set to NAT. So I'm just going to go VM, removable VM settings, and go to the network controller, and I'm going to put it on a bridged network adapter. Okay, so this is going to join it onto my actual LAN. So let's hit save, and then if we do up and just check the IP address, we can see it's still on 172.16 whatever 24. So what I'm going to do, we could probably stop and restart networking, but let's just start the machine, and hopefully we should pick up a 192 address. So let's just restart this now. Right, so let's log in and let's just see what IP address we've got now. Right, now we've got to see the IP address, you just type IP address show, or IPA for short, and that'll give you your IP address. Now I've got a 192 address, right? So what I'm going to do is SSH to Michael at 192.168. I'm going to guess it's going to be 1.238. So I'm actually getting that from my local DHCP server in my house, right? Do I want to accept fingerprint? Yes. Put the password in. So now we're connected into it on the LAN. Okay, now it's an actual machine that sits on the LAN. Same as MDB01, MWCS01 now has an IP address on the LAN. So next thing I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to install the Apache server. Okay, now I'll show you how to do this. It's very straightforward. You just become root by doing, so hold on, question in the chat. You're getting 192.168.30, but not using DHCP. What can you do to sort that? You have a home network that doesn't have DHCP. I'm not sure. Bridged, yeah, you want to put it on bridged, yeah. So you want to have it like this. Look, VM settings, network adapter bridged. Right. At the moment, we started off on NAT just because it's easier. I didn't want anything to change at the beginning. But now we've actually joined the machine to the LAN. Okay. So we're going to install the Apache server on this. So it's SU minus to become root. Now the reason you have to put minus, I'll not go into that, it's a little bit out of what we're doing today, but you can't just do SU, you need to do SU minus these days. Okay, you used to be able to just do SU, you need to do SU space minus now. So put in the root password, and now we're root at MWCS01, and if I want to install software, I can just do apt, okay, that stands for the Advanced Package Tool, install, oh, let's just search the package still for apt search Apache 2. Okay, make sure I spell it right. What that's going to do is it's going to go onto the internet, search for packages and find them. So for example, let's say I was looking for some kind of a calculator. Okay, I can do apt search calculator, and here are all these different. So there's a dockable calculator application, a flexible command line scientific calculator, a Texas Instruments calculator emulator, a sugar calculator, a subnet calculator. Ho ho! Some of the people trying to do the CCNA exam on Tuesday could have certainly done with one of those. An advanced console-based IP subnet calculator. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, so there's all sorts of things you can just search for. Thousands of packages. Now, let's say I wanted to install one of these. I just change the word search to install. So let's install, and we're going to install Apache 2. And then just press return. And it's going to ask us if we want to, do we want to install it? Are we sure? Because it's going to take up X amount of space. And we can just say, yeah. Okay. And then it's going to go onto the internet, get the Apache server, download it, and install it on this machine. And that's it. It's quick as that. So now we need to check and see if the Apache server's running after doing apt install Apache 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to do system ctl status Apache 2. And if it comes up like this, active running, that means Apache 2 is running. Okay, running on the system. So, what we want to do now is see if the default web page is up. So let's just do IP address show again. And here we have 192.168.1138. Let's copy that. And I'm going to grab a new private window in my web browser. Okay, and I'm going to put that IP address into the address bar. And as you can see, the Apache server is up and running, and there is the default page there. Okay, so IP address show systemctl status Apache 2 is running on the server, and there is the IP address of the server that we're SSH'd into. So this server here is running the Apache server, and we installed it using this command line, and we have the Apache server installed. Okay, so now we have a web server running on the machine. I'm gonna just stop for a second and see if there are any questions at this stage. So let me just pause this here. So now that we have the Apache server running on the machine, when we do this systemctl status, you might notice that you've got this little thing that comes up, right? This is called a pager. All right, and this allows you to scroll through pages with spacebar. See, to get out of this, you press Q for quit. Okay, Q gets you out of the pager. So you ever see anything like comes up like that, it's Q to quit. Okay, on your keyboard. Right, so the structure of the Apache server is detailed on the default page. Okay, we've got this etc Apache 2 is where the config files live, and then we have these various different .conf files. So I'm going to go in there and just show you what these look like. I'm going to try and make my terminal a little bit bigger. So let's do, let's go into the settings here, preferences, and let's just jump up the font size a little bit. Someone's lost their root password. No, if you've lost your root password, you'll have to reinstall the machine. I told you to make it something easy, and I told you to make it the same as your user account password. Look, it's fine. I mean, I'm glad we're getting these things out of the way on the first day. All right. So, I'm just going to go in to the go in and have a look at the Apache server. Okay, so cd to. Now, the way to remember where config files are is they live in the edit to configure directory, etc, edit to configure. Alright? And then go ls. So here's all the kind of services on the machine. Here's all the different things that we can edit. And look, notice they've got these .conf, .conf, .conf. And ones that don't are usually a directory, okay? So Apache 2. So if we cd into Apache 2 and then do ls, well, ls, la, you can see that these files here, see this Apache 2.conf, conf available, conf enabled, are these files that are displayed on the Apache default page, okay? etc Apache 2, Apache 2.conf. That's literally this file here. Now, in order to be able to configure files, we should go like this. Alright, so we need to install the editor to configure the files. So I'm just going to do install vim, and if you put on a -y, it means instead of asking you if you want to go ahead, yes or no, it'll just install it. It'll just take that as an argument. So let's just get vim installed first of all. Right, so let's just clear, and let's say just do vi apache 2.conf. Right, so this is the main Apache configuration file, and look, there's that layout again of the Apache, and it tells you in here what everything does. So it's very, very useful. It tells you what everything does, tells you the server root, tells you the number of seconds before things are alive, tells you about keep alive requests. So what you can do with this is you can change these things here, and that will change the configuration of the server. So you literally edit directly onto the global configuration file, and you can change the configuration of the server. So to get out of this, we just press escape to go into normal mode, and then we just do okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop this just now and show you the task for this week. So the task for this week, so we can say that lab 1 was just installing Linux commands and installing Apache, did that in a live setting, and we're going to look at lab 1, okay? So let me just grab this over here. So this lab I'm going to give you to do in your own time, and it's basically editing this document. Now let me just zoom this in. Been a couple of years since I wrote this, so it's in my old lab template. I probably do need to update it, but you know, but I'm a busy man, so I'll try to. So basically what to do is I'll give you this Word doc, and I just want you to work through this and fill out these, okay? Now hopefully this will be pretty straightforward for you, and it assumes that you've got Apache installed, alright? And then what you're going to do in part 4 is you're going to make your first web page, typing it out, okay, and then you're going to navigate to the test page and see it running on the server, okay? So make sure you su to root, and then you change into this place, var www.html, because that's where the files go, okay? And then there's a little bit of fun in the last part. So first argument, when a program is entered, when we enter man and a program has the first argument, we can see the man page. We can see the man page, right? So I'll give you a little bit of background on why it's called groff, right? So let's speak 1960s, 1950s, 1960s chat. Americans used to say if you wanted to Xerox something, or if you wanted to photocopy something, they used to say they'd run off a copy for you. Like, I'll go and run off a copy. So there used to be a program called ROF, and it was short for runoff, and it was for formatting documents. Now, ROF was rewritten by the GNU project and renamed as GROF. Okay, so that's why it's called GROF, GNU runoff. So with GROF, right, what we can do is we can actually create a markdown file using these little commands, like .tl means title, okay? And then what we can do is we can compile the markdown file using this command and pass it out to a PDF. And what it'll actually do is it'll run off a copy, it'll generate a copy. And then what we can do is, see if we change this -t to HTML, we can turn it into a web page and we can display it on our web server. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll make this available to you just now. Hold on, I'll just add it to the chat. File, download. Do we want docx or do we want ODT? Let's go docx. So I'll download this. It's going to download to my ISOs folder. I don't want to put it there. Let's just do that so I can get it here and I'll attach it. So what I'd like you to do is just complete this Word document and upload it to the Moodle. There's some. It's basically an intro to Linux commands and just using the Apache server. And those are the tasks for week 1.